Hello everyone, Lawrence here from Unicorn Reviews with Akko's brand new POM switches. They are polyoxyl methylene switches. Car guys among you probably know it as Delrin. It's used in bushings, and if you're into like RC cars, it's probably used in little gears because it's a very easy to machine, low friction type of plastic. Akko decided to make keyboard switches out of it, so let's see how that goes. Now, Akko has a pink, a brown, and a silver version of this switch, and I'm probably going to go through it in that order. The pink is a linear switch. You got a tactile with the brown, and the silver is also a linear. Now, both the pink and the brown have 4mm of travel, and their actuation point is at 1.9mm. But for you fast gamer boys, the speed silver, or it's just called silver in this case, has an actuation point at only 1mm, but the stroke ends at only 3mm. These switches use a very standard cherry style housing, so if you want to loop them up, get a cherry style switch opener. The bottom housing, top housing, and even the stem is POM. The only thing that isn't really is the spring. Now, one thing to keep in mind, these switches have room for your keyboard's PCB LED to shine through, but the switch itself isn't shine through, so it won't color your light in any sort of way. That's actually a good thing. Although it may reflect a slightly different shade if you get the brown or the pink, the grays should just represent the exact color your LED is giving out. So as I said, we'll start off with the POM pink, which is a fairly pastel-y pink, salmon-like pink, and I'm sure there's a lot of keyboards and keycaps that match with this pink perfectly. It's just that I don't have any on hand. It's a 4mm travel, 1.9mm actuation linear with a 45g spring in it. And the spring is fairly long, which means that at the start of your keystroke, you're already close to that 45g. And once you're past the actuation point, you're also still very close to it. If you have a longer spring, your curve will look a bit more flat, whereas if you have a short spring, your curve will be a little bit steeper. So that's something to keep in mind if you are into that. And all three of these have a fairly long spring. Even the little short travel 3mm silvers. I'll tell you what they are like lubed later on, but fresh out of the box, unlubed, they are very smooth, but when you hold them really close to your ear, they're a little bit scratchy, but you don't hear that when you're actually typing on it. They also have a fairly deep sound, a bit deeper than your average plastic switch. And honestly, they're pretty nice as a starting point. However, when you lube them, they get a lot better, but more about that later. I did notice that the ramp, or maybe the contact, was lubed a little bit to make everything feel just a little bit smoother than a just raw, dry experience. Also, it's very nice that whenever I was like pressing and depressing the little switch, there was no spring pinging that I could possibly hear, so that's really nice. Now, I did mention these are unlooped, and fans of the channel may have seen my Akko factory looped comparison video. Sadly, no factory looped version of these exists yet, but they are the most expensive switch that Akko does. So these are about 45 cents per switch, and they come in a 45 pack, so it's like 20-ish euros. And it's very cool to see, thank you Akko, that they added pricing, including tax for the region that you're in. Big thumbs up. I'm gonna complain if it's not okay, but big thumbs up if it is okay. Good thing I just looked at my script. If you use coupon code Unicorn Reviews, you can get a whopping 10% off, making these actually fairly decent value. Instead of 45 cents, it'll be like 41 cents. So yeah, maybe get them with that code if you can. Now anyway, the pink is a very pleasant linear to type on. What isn't a pleasant linear to type on, but is maybe awesome for you gamer boys and girls out there, is the silver, because it's a bit faster. Honestly, the overall feel is the same between these both. It's just that the silver actuates faster and the keystroke stops more quickly at only 3mm. I personally hate it. It feels like typing on a laptop keyboard. But I guess if you want that fast actuation, you can't go wrong with a 1mm actuation distance. It's the same POM lower, POM top, POM stem, slightly different spring inside there with a little ring in the middle, and it's the same style cherry housing as well. Same 43, it says 43, but basically because the actuation point is earlier in the force curve of the spring, it's only 43g instead of 45 for this one. Other than that, it's a 45g spring. And that's basically all I can say about it. No spring noise, no scratching noise. And that brings us to my favorite of these three POM switches, the tactile one, the POM brown. Now, everyone hates browns, but these ones are actually pretty good. This is only a 40g actuation force, and it's a noticeable tactile bump, but it's not like a box royal or anything, but you do feel it being tactile. It's also slightly softer off of the top than even the Ocean Blues that Akko does, that I'm a big fan of. But these are actually quite nice to type on, quite nice to game on as well. And again, 1.9mm actuation point, 4mm of travel, no spring pinging, and a fairly smooth actuation overall. Up until now, I've always said they feel pretty smooth. They sound pretty decent because stock, they're not super impressive. What it really comes down to is lubing these. They offer slightly more potential to get like peak switch compared to like a standard plastic housing switch. And so I got my girlfriend to grab the lube for a very fun Sunday morning together. We lubed a pack of each of these so I could compare a lubed version to a dry version. And honestly, they feel amazing when lubed. They are so incredibly smooth. When you hold them right up to your ear, you can still hear them scratch ever so slightly, but you don't feel it when typing. And when you're typing on them in a keyboard, you don't hear any scratching whatsoever. There's no spring pinging because there wasn't any to begin with, but now it sounds even deeper, thockier, bassier, and overall very happy with these. If you want absolute sound, go with the pings, but if you want a nice tactile experience, the browns are slightly nicer to type on. The big improvement when lubing these isn't from smoothness during the stroke, it's more smoothness at the top of the stroke, so that static friction gets almost entirely removed once you start lubing these POMs, and that just makes it feel softer off the top, just more pleasant, and also it just improves the sound a lot. And while I could drag this video out incredibly long and talk about each of these individually, they're the same type of housing, just a different color, and so the lubing does the exact same to them. The only one where you have to be a little bit careful is maybe the brown tactile, so you don't over lube them and completely lose that tactility. Anyway, here's a quick sound check between the dry version and the lubed version. So then, conclusion time. And the conclusion, fairly simple actually. If you are going to lube your switches, these are a good choice. They're 45 cents or 41 cents if you use Unicorn Reviews as a coupon on checkout. 41 cents a switch. They're fairly affordable, but not like cheap bottom feeder sort of switches. And they offer a lot of potential when you're lubing them. But if you know you're not going to lube switches yourself, just get other Akko switches that are factory lubed. At the same price, they'll be a lot smoother than these dry. Again, if you are going to lube them, use these because they're pretty awesome. Anyway guys, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers!